Hey gang, Rick with Let's Level Up, and today we're going to be talking about Battle Hardened Games' new Kickstarter, 1750 Britain versus France. Now, what we've seen is a prototype in play, but this is one of these games that I feel like you need to look at it. Whether you back it or not, it's definitely a game I think every gamer needs to consider whether it fits or not in their collection. 1750 Britain versus France is a sort of theoretical concept and plays a little bit on some other areas of history, but spreads the Britain and France conflicts throughout 4 different theaters of war, and essentially has the opponents vie for control of colonies. Whoever has the most colonies at the end of the game is going to be declared the winner. And there are different rules for setting up ties and whatnot, but I won't get into those just yet. What I really love about this game is that it plays like a war game. It has a lot of immersive strategic qualities to it, but it plays in 30 minutes. And it's one of those games that I played a few times at Gen Con with Jason, the creator of this game, and it was just blown away every time. And there were different things that happen throughout the game that allow me to kind of weave the tide of combat into my favor. It really is kind of brilliant in that aspect. It's accessible, which I think a lot of war games are not. I know I personally just get a little bit daunted when I look at some of these really huge out-of-the-box war games. 1750 Britain versus France is going to bring a historical war game perspective to your table at an affordable cost, I feel, and it also at a time limit and a rules, as far as a jumping off point for understanding the rules, something that's very accessible to many players. So again, it's going to play for 2 players, and it's going to play in about 30 minutes. So we're going to head it to the table. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I like about the game. And again, this is just kind of an overview preview video. You can check out more information at the link to their Kickstarter below here in the description of this video. And just tell Jason that Let's Level Up sent you if you end up going there, because that'll help us out and it'll also help Jason out. So he's one of those guys that has a lot of passion about gaming, and it was specifically his game, right? And you can't blame him for that, for sure. But the guys that are very passionate about their projects and really believe in their product are the guys that I want to see succeed. So I was very happy that Jason reached out to us and asked us to do this preview video, and I want to do that for him. So by all means, if you have any comments or suggestions, please let us know. If you have any questions about 1750, you can let me know, or again, you can contact Jason directly on his Kickstarter page, or on Twitter. I believe they're at History Battles on Twitter. So yeah, we're going to show you now. Hope you like it. So 1750 is going to be a war between Britain and France, spread throughout 4 different theaters. Those theaters are the Caribbean, the North America, Africa, and India. Now, each of these theaters currently has 3 colonies, and now some of the rules before that I played with suggested 4 colonies, but at Gen Con, I think Jason officially made the decision to go ahead and use 3 colonies, and I think that proves for a bit more intense game because there's going to be a lot more combat going on. So what you're going to want to do is set up your board something like this. So each player will have a play mat, they'll collect their starting income, they will roll to see who goes first. The player who gets the highest roll can actually choose whether they want to place the first token or take the first turn. Once all of their initial colony tokens have been placed, again, blue for France, red for England, and I think he's actually going to have custom tokens here as part of the Kickstarter, so that way you can know based on the flag who controls what. You're also going to get a starting hand of your 2 cards plus 3 cards from the historical objectives deck. Now, the historical objective cards are going to act like instant spells that you can play at any time that will do random things. I hit spells again. Players are also going to get 2 cards based on their faction that essentially do the same for both sides. One gives you +2 to a political objective attempt, and the other allows you to either cancel a historical effect or re-roll any 1 die at any time. So these are good cards to have. Once you use these cards, as with any historical event, they are gone and out of the game. So you're going to have those two, and then you're going to randomly draw 3 historical events to be part of your hand, and you're not going to want to show your ally that, or rather your opponent that. And we'll get into more of historical events here in a second. After each player has their starting hand and everyone's got their colony set up, you're ready to begin play. Now, the player who acted last in the colony acquisition at the beginning of the game gets to take the first turn of the game. Now, consequently, that's going to mean that they're going to not take the last turn of the game. 1750 is played over a series of rounds. So at the beginning of the setup, you're actually going to take 10 of the historical event cards and put them in a small deck to the side. And at the beginning of every turn, you're going to draw one of those historical event cards, add that to your hand of cards, and then continue play. Once that deck of 10 cards is empty, the game is going to be over after the next turn, rather, and players are going to see who wins. You're going to decide who wins this game based upon the number of counters that you have here. Now, this rule, as far as breaking ties, has changed a couple times, but I'll go with what I've been playing right now. And again, check the official Kickstarter for more rules revisions and whatnot. But if the event is a tie, such as we are right now with each player controlling 3 different colonies, you're going to go with first the number of prisoners here within the deck, rather in their thing, so whoever captured the most leaders. Secondly, you'll go to who has the most income. If that's still a tie, I think you can go to the political objectives board and see who controls the majority of those. And we'll get into political objectives here in a second. So, after you draw your event card, you're ready to move on to the next step of play, which is leader actions. So let's say I had George Washington here in the Caribbean at Jamaica. Now, this is going to provide us an export of indigo, but this card is also says that if you control with a leader at the start of your turn, roll of a 5+, may pick a free privateers here. So you're going to roll this die at this phase, and I rolled a 2, so nothing's going to happen here. But if I rolled a 5 or higher, I'd be able to get a free privateer here. What's great about the setup of this game is that there are a ton of other colonies per theater. So what you'll do is essentially randomize those, or play your 3 favorite colonies here in a row, and hopefully in battle over it that way. But these will kind of have different things. Each colony is going to break down in 2 ways. They're going to all have an export, which is a form of currency in the game. You can see there's going to be a great stack of mini cards here included in the game. And these are things like sugar and silk and precious metals and ivory and indigo. For every set of 3 unique, let me get another one, here we go. For every set of 3 unique exports that you have at the end of your turn, you're going to get 1 additional gold on your upkeep. Now, there are going to be plenty of times where you have 3 sugars, let's say. Now, you can't group all of those 3 sugars together. They have to be unique with each other. But you can have multiple sets that include sugar. So if you have 3 sugars and you also have 3 indigos and 3 precious metals, you've got 3 extra gold coming your turn because those are 3 distinct sets of exports. After you do your leader actions, we're going to go to the political objective attempts. Now, I'm a big dummy, and I actually took my political objectives and I cut them up into cards, and you're not supposed to do this. So this is going to be an actual sideboard of the game, and let me just move George Washington here. And these political objectives represent the other nations of Europe and how they're going to be interacting with us in our conflict. So you can see here this is going to be a great big board. So on this, you're essentially going to declare one of these political objectives, and you're going to make a d6 roll. Now, at the top of each of these cards, they have a number value that you have to meet or beat. So for instance, Portugal has a political objective attempt of 5 or higher. So that means on a d6, I have to roll a 5 or higher. Portugal is going to be a good one to get because when they enter the war on your side, you're going to be able to add 2 sugar to your resource. So if I roll this, and I got a 3, I'm going to basically fail my attempt and I move on to the next step. If I got a 5 or higher, I'm going to be able to take one of my tokens here and place it right here on the political objective, letting the other player know that I've went ahead and I've captured that alliance with Portugal. What's great about the political objectives is that the other players are going to be able to take those political objectives back from me. So if I lose my allegiance to Portugal, not only does my enemy gain the 2 sugar, but I lose the 2 sugar that I had, which is really cool. So this is a sort of political game that's going on to the side of our combat that's taking place in each of the 3 theaters, which is really, really neat. After our political objective step is over, we're going to go on to the purchases phase, where we're going to take the gold that we have in our treasury and look at our faction-specific cards and try to buy things with. Now, each of these cards has a couple symbols on there. They have the amount of gold that it takes to buy. So, for instance, this guy's costs 3. You can see that my faction symbol's up there with the flag. He's got the sword, which makes him a leader. This particular guy is going to get +3 on any of his dice rolls. And this is Edward Hawke. And there's a little bit of history here on the thing. So that's going to make 1750 also a very good game to have in the classroom setting as well, because you can actually learn a little bit about this period of time between the different leaders that they had in France and the different events from the historical events that are going to happen, which is really neat to me. Also, in the form of leaders, we have other things like fortresses that we can buy. We have siege guns, we have local allies, we have Germanic mercenaries, and things like plantations as well, which will double our thing. And we'll go in a little bit more in depth of these here towards the end of the video, along with some historical objective cards, colonies, and some of the political objectives. After the purchases phase is over, I'm going to be able to move my units around. Now, any units that I have on the board, I'm going to be able to move them 1 space over in a colony already. Now, there are a couple rules for movement. I can't leave a battle, meaning if I have a unit here and they have a unit here, I can't leave a battle to go and take over an unoccupied space or move over to another battle. I can move from here directly to the high seas or move from here to a colony I control if it's adjacent, which is something that's really neat. So I can't necessarily retreat from a battle only to get involved in another battle. The other rules for movement is I can only move into an adjacent space in the theater that my unit is currently in. I can always move to the high seas from any colony, and from the high seas to any colony. So the high seas is going to be a go-between area as our units move from a region to region around the world. After all movement has been resolved, we're going to proceed to the battles phase. So in this particular case here, I've got George Washington and Charles over here on the French side, and they are occupying the same zone. So essentially, we have a battle to resolve here. Now, what we're going to do is pair up our attacks, and let me get a little closer here to the action. So for something like this, it's very simple to do our pairings. We each only have 1 unit here, and we're going to have 1 die apiece. Now, certain leaders are going to be able to get bonuses to their die rolls, and there are going to be certain political objectives that you can play before combat. They're going to be able to switch the tide or allow somebody to re-roll after they see a result. Now, this game is very simple and straightforward when it comes to combat. I roll my side, which is a 2, ouch. They roll their side, which is a 5, double ouch. They're going to win this combat, and they're going to take away my George Washington and add it to their prison because he is a leader designated here by the sword icon. Now, let's say I had multiple people here in this combat. For instance, I've got Jeffrey Amherst here as well. Now, he's going to get a +2 on his roll. If this is a 2 versus 1 scenario, both my dice are going to be versus their 1. Now, if he has, and excuse me, I'm going to use a British fortress here. Let's say he also has a fortress over here, which gets +2 to its die roll. We're going to basically need to establish a pair. So what I generally do in this is try to go for either the easy kill and pair up my +2 versus his 1, or make it an even playing field. So my +2 versus his +2, and then my Washington, which is a straight die roll, versus his Charles, which is also a straight die roll. And then we'd roll off again. So in this event, we needed to specify which battle is taking place and what we're doing, and then rolling off for that. So again, I got a 2, and they got a 4. So essentially, I would lose both of these battles here. He captured both my leaders, and this particular colony is going to stay very much British free. You're going to resolve every battle where this scenario is going to take place. So if we have battles all throughout our different theaters here, this is going to have to be resolved 1 at a time until all of them have been resolved. After we've taken care of our battles, we are going to go to the place purchases phase, which is essentially taking anything that we bought previously in the purchases phase and place them here on the actual game board. And remember, whenever it comes to placing purchases, we can place them onto any colony that we control or into the high seas. And then from the high seas, go pretty much anywhere. So keep that in mind when you're placing your purchases. After that, you're going to collect income. You're going to collect always your base 3 gold, and then you're going to get 1 extra gold for every set of 3 unique exports that you have. And that's kind of a rough look at the different turn sequences of the game. All right, here's just a quick look at some of the prototype cards for the different exports here. You can see we've got a sugar plantation, we've got indigo, and we've got precious metals. Fish, I believe silk. Let's see. Let's look at some of the other ones. You can see there are a ton of these things in here. So sugar, precious metals, ivory, spices, silk, fish, and timber, which is a unique one in the game. So those are the other types of exports that we're going to have. When it comes to actually our units, each unit, or rather each player, is going to receive their little mini card deck full of the different units. So you can see here we have a fortress. It gives us +2 on our rolls, limit 1 per colony. Here we have local allies, and it says may interplay at an uncontrolled colony, or a colony you control may not leave this theater. So they're always going to be there at that particular theater. We have siege guns. It says moves only with your leaders. Opponent's fortresses roll a -3 at that colony, so it's going to be a way for us to essentially detract from the fortresses that they have. There's another copy of local allies. Here's some Germanic mercenaries. These are neat. It says they may interplay at a colony immediately when purchased, so they don't have to wait around for the place purchases phase. You're going to destroy them at the end of this turn and may not purchase on turn 1. So it's something you have to wait until you get out until after turn 1 is over. Here we have a leader, again designated by the sword icon. It costs 1 gold. He's actually going to get +1 on his rolls. Here we have a 2 gold cost, going to get +2. And then there's also going to be a 3 gold cost, which is going to get +3. So James Wolfe and also Edward Hawke also gets +3. Privateers are neat because they actually let you steal gold from the enemies if they're at a colony they control. And we're going to have one more type, which is the plantations, which allows you to get 2 exports on a colony that you control. You can again give you more resources to do things with, which is pretty neat. Here's a close shot of the 2 base cards that your faction's going to get. Here we said the influence of William Pitt. It says before attempting, add +2 to 1 political objective attempt. You can discard this card afterwards. We also have Monarch. This is the leadership type. It says His Majesty is giving a matter his attention, his personal attention. Play at any time to re-roll any one of your dice, or cancel the effects of 1 historic event card. And again, the French side are going to have cards that are very similar to this, in fact, identical, with the exception of art and the name. Here is an historical event card called Pirates. Opponent loses 1 gold. And again, historical event cards can play at any time where they're going to make a difference. Some historical events cards have a specific circumstance that has to happen first. This is Uprising in Europe. It says play in an opponent's play area. They have -1 on political rolls. Opponent may cancel this by placing 1 of their leaders out of play. One they have already purchased that isn't captured. And then we have a frigate. It says destroy 1 privateer card, or cancel 1 pirates card, or move 1 of your units 1 extra space this turn. So that's a way for you to get more. And let's just look at a couple more of these, because these are really, really neat and well thought out. I can say a couple more. I draw 3 of the same ones in a row. Here we have Peace Treaty. It says play on before an opponent's turn, before their movement step. Unless an opponent rolls a 6 on 1 die, an opponent may not move to colonies under your control. And I just drew 3 of those in a row.
Whoop. There's another frigate. There's another uprising in Europe. It says play this free fortress on a colony that you control. May be placed on a colony where you already have one fortress. Does not violate the normal limitation of one fortress per colony. This is an awesome card to have. And then it says a mission from your government. Your opponent chooses one colony under their control and places this card underneath that colony. If you take this colony of the chosen, if you take control of this chosen colony, place 3 treasury in your discard. Place 3 treasury in your discard. I wonder if that means to sack 3 treasury. Again, this is a very early prototype, so some of the text on these cards is a little needs a little bit of updating, but that's something they're going to get taken care of when the Kickstarter finishes. And finally, we have some of the different colony cards here. You can see we got some different of the North American colonies. So here's Boston. Let me get a little closer so you can see that. So Boston export is fish. It says if you control with a leader on the start of your turn, roll a 5 or plus. Your political objective rolls, this turn is +1, which is very awesome. Next we have Virginia, which is furs. It says if you control a leader with the start of your turn, roll a 6. You may place 1 gold in your treasury. There's Halifax, export fish again. It says local allies roll +1 here. So you can see the colonies are all going to have a different type of a perk, so to speak, and an export they're going to give you, which is going to allow you to get more currency. Colonies are the way you win this game, though, so it's very, very important to make sure you're getting all of those. And finally here, we're going to take a look at all the political objectives. So you can see here we have the Austria political objective. Have to do it on a roll of 5 or higher. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention before that when you're doing a political objective, you can actually spend a gold to boost your score by 1, or 2 gold to boost it by 2. So you can spend up to 2 gold to increase your die roll by 5 and play any political objectives. Increase your die roll by 2 and play any political objectives that may increase it further from that. So you can see here on a roll of 5 or higher, you can be able to get Austria, and they say place 1 forces released from Europe card on a colony you control, which is a different unit. Next we've got Sweden entering your turn, allow you to add 1 timber, and this is going to be on a roll of 4 or higher. Next up we're going to have another political objective of 7 or higher. It says Prussia enters the war on your side. Place 1 forces released from Europe card on a colony you control. Also, all of your leaders roll an additional +1 in battles. Very, very good to get Prussia on your side. Here we have the Netherlands, which is 6 or higher. Collect 1 additional gold per turn if you control these guys. We have on a 5 or higher, we have Portugal, which again is add to sugar. Here we have Russia entering the war on your side. If on your opponent's side Prussia and Austria, if on your opponent's side Prussia and Austria immediately become neutral, opponent returns any forces released from Europe. Place 2 forces released from Europe on a colony that you control. So Russia's another one of those that's just awesome to get if your opponent controls something else. Spain enters the war on your side. Spanish forces arrive to support your cause. Place 2 Spanish expeditionary forces at the high seas at a colony or at a colony you control, which is very good as well. And finally, we have the Native American Alliance. It says all of your units roll +1 in North America. So that's another very cool thing to get here.
Okay, so that was 1750 Britain versus France. Now there are a few key points and I really want to hone in on at the end of this video just to make sure everybody's following along. 1, it's a 2-player strategy game set in a theoretical conflict between Britain and France, or maybe not theoretical, but definitely sensationalized as far as the amount of bloodshed that may have happened, at least in your games, definitely. 2, it plays in 30 minutes. So this is a war game. It is deeply immersive in the strategy that you can have and in the different ways that you can kind of control your different areas of the world. and it plays in 30 minutes. You're not going to have to spend all day and make it a huge event. This is a game you can get multiple sessions in a given time. It would take you to play one game of a bigger box war game, like Axis and Allies, for instance. I really like that. It's also a card-based game, so unfortunately there are no sweet miniatures or anything like that to move around. But again, you're not going to have to worry about calculating things like movement and distance and things like that. Third point is that it has a very familiar combat element if you've played games like Risk. If my dice beats your dice, then I win the combat. If we tie, then nothing happens. If you beat me, then congratulations, you got one of my guys. I really like the way that it lets the loser of the combat decide what unit gets killed. Again, very familiar to other games like that. I really enjoy the historical objective cards. Not only are they kind of events that actually happened in history, but they really can change the tide of what's going on in the game right now. I enjoy the political objective step of the game. I think it's one that I think it's one that can definitely really help or hinder you, but in a game that's only 5 rounds, if you don't get one, it's okay. I've won the game before without getting any political objectives, and so that right there may pose a bit of a problem, but I'm sure Jason could work that out. Again, what I've got is a prototype. The finished product is going to look much fancier, and some of the images I've seen on the Kickstarter have already just kind of blown me away. So Jason, I wish you all the luck in the world, buddy, on this game. Guys, I hope you guys seriously consider clicking on the link below in the description of this video and consider backing 1750 Britain versus France. From everybody here at Let's Level Up, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, but most importantly, game on.